Good evening and welcome to TMI Live number 44. Happy birthday, Marshall McLuhan. Usually at this time, 9 p.m. on a Tuesday night, you will find me at the McLuhan Institute headquarters in the Library of Eric McLuhan, where every week I spend several hours documenting and inventorying Eric McLuhan's annotated library. This week is a little bit different. This is Marshall McLuhan's birthday. It would have been his 109th birthday. He was born July 21st, 1911. And it's different because this week we're coming at you live from the McLuhan Institute's satellite in Wellington, Ontario, which is just down the road from the homestead and has a much superior internet connection. So I'm able to have a little more bandwidth and maybe a little more fun. So this week, I thought I would ask a good friend of our family, Joan Steacy, to come and talk. Joan is well, she's all kinds of things. She's an excellent human being, a mother, a great partner, and she's actually an author, and she's written a few things. But what brings us today is this graphic novel, Aurora BoreAlice. Now, what I'm showing you here is my original copy from some years ago. It was later picked up by, was it Dundurn? She'll correct me on this in a second. And the full thing is out and available, and I encourage you to get it. For Marshall's birthday, oh, there she goes. She got it. I'm wearing the biggest, fattest Marshall McLuhan tie that I could find. Check this out. This is a relic from the dustbin of history. It's a Givenchy Marshall McLuhan tie. I feel like enough attention hasn't been paid to Marshall McLuhan's fashion. There's probably a book in that, but the guy was a clothes horse. He did enjoy dressing up. I thought about maybe wearing. I have some other items of clothing of his, but it's kind of too hot to play dress up down here, so I went for this big old scratchy tie. Anyway, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Joan Steacy, who I have on the line here. And I have to apologize to Joan. She can just see my eye in the corner of the screen. This is a weird setup. And
your voice is breaking in and out. I'll try to manage to.
Okay. Sorry, Joan.
It's fine.
So I have many things to apologize to Joan for. Probably mostly because Joan is probably reluctant to do this at all. But thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming today.
I want to do it, but yeah.
Good. Well, I appreciate it because I was only 2.5 years old when Marshall died, so I don't have any really memories. All I have is, I didn't even bring it in. I have a couple pictures of me and Marshall holding me as a baby. Speaking of Marshall as a baby, I did bring this one prop. Here's a baby picture. That's Elsie Naomi Hall McLuhan, Marshall's mother, and baby Marshall McLuhan. Oh, little Marshall. Happy birthday, Marshall. Can you see this, Joan?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's great.
Anyway, all I really have is a few photos of me and Marshall. There's one that I posted earlier of Marshall, Michael McLuhan, my father Eric, and myself. The summer before he died, pardon me, and I treasure stuff like that. But what's really great is that Marshall made a really big impact in a lot of people's lives. Even the funny thing is people remember Marshall even if they only met him very casually, like one time. And I'll hear some story. 99% of them are positive. Every once in a while you get one that's not too thrilled. But he really impacted people's lives, and not just because he was a celebrity or something. but I think because he was very approachable and generally interested in any person that he came across. So anyway, with that, I want to thank Joan Steacy for joining us, and we're just going to chat a little bit. Joan, perhaps you can tell us just a little bit about Aurora BoreAlice, the graphic novel you wrote, and how Marshall and otherwise McLuhan figures into it.
Well, okay. Wow. The whole idea came to me when I shook Marshall's hand. He had a stroke and he couldn't speak. And Andrew's dad, Eric, and I went to his place to get a projector to celebrate New Year's Eve, which was my birthday. So he greeted us at the door, and he put out his hand, and I put out my hand, and we shook hands, and he couldn't say anything, and I couldn't say anything because I was a bit intimidated and very shy at the time, and this, if you can see this sequence, it's Eric and I going to the door, and there's the hand reaching out, and there's Marshall, and a sweet smile, but that little encounter, here's the next page, where it was cold, and all I could get out of my mouth was a little puff of cold air. So this idea, this spark of an idea, was that encounter with McLuhan. Because I wanted to write a story kind of about McLuhan and about my difficulties with literacy, and meeting Eric for the first time over 30 years ago. He was my mentor for over 30 years. So he, actually made McLuhan easier for me to understand. But I had to do a lot of heavy lifting. With my struggles with reading and writing especially, I felt this connection with McLuhan, that I didn't really have a voice, and he lost his voice, and there we are, this encounter. So I don't know, that was a spark of an idea, but at the time, graphic novels weren't really, as big as they are now. But I wanted to write a story or illustrate a story or something. But when I started reading some of the new graphic novels that were coming out, I thought, oh, yes, this is the vehicle that I'll use to tell my story. And it's basically my perseverance and persistence in trying to get an education after graduating from a vocational high school that I was put in, as I was labeled. Yeah. They used to call it a dummy school. Yeah. And so this stigma stuck with me, and I just wanted to break away from all those labels and prove that, I was smarter than everybody, or, some people thought I was, because I didn't do well in school.
I love your story, Joan. Just your life story, and I love how you lay it out so honestly and vulnerably in the book, in Aurora BoreAlice. It's really it's a really wonderful story about triumph and kind of flipping the bird to everybody who said you're something that you're not, and you can only do this or that. because I struggled in school too, and I remember at one point in grade 9, I stopped doing well in school in about grade 3, and by grade 9, they gave me an IQ test, and I remember somebody saying to me, "Well, we want to find out if you're stupid or just lazy,"
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the IQ test, I felt, was very biased, and this was revealed with Eric's teaching. He basically, said it was biased. The left hemisphere thinkers, that's what it was. Those people would excel in school, and I was not that way. I did not think that way. But it was the last year of Ontario College of Art that I had Eric's class, which opened up like a vitamin for my brain.
Yes.
And he said to me that I was the smartest one in the class. So with that, coming from a freshly minted PhD, and I know he co-authored his Marshall's books. It was really a powerful moment for me that he recognized me and listened to me and genuinely wanted some feedback from me to his books that he was writing. And we would have long conversations, hours would go by, and the sparks of his ideas, like he would be reading a book on synesthesia, let's say, and then all of a sudden, a year or two later, he would come out with a book that pulled ideas out of that.
Yeah.
He just worked them into his idea that he wanted to get across to the public.
Yeah.
His books. But Eric was always there for me in my intellectual development. And when somebody treats you like you're their colleague or peer or equal, and there was no, I think I was embarrassed about my, functionally illiterate graduating from high school, but that didn't bother him. He actually thought that was an asset in some ways, because I wasn't so ABC minded. And this is, I don't know, reading Ezra Pound, like he turned me on to so many books, and I devoured them once I like they were just so packed full of ideas. I couldn't get enough of them. And my book, I wanted to express that idea of just the excitement of learning.
Yes.
And learning a very, very wide-ranging subjects, and not being afraid of those subjects where everybody, a lot of people thought, oh, McLuhan's difficult. It's like, but I had to work hard at it, and Eric saw that I worked hard at it, so he, and it was like, to give you an example, in the center, going to the Center for Culture and Technology when McLuhan was talking, giving his talks, and I was back in the background, I thought, oh, dear God, don't point me out or don't center me out, but it was an amazing time, and he really wanted people to work. He didn't want anybody freeloading and just not putting in the effort. And Marshall was always there to give what he had, but you had to give something back. So being in this room with all these people that were dialoguing with him, and I really was hiding from it, but I was absorbing every word he said.
Yeah.
It was just, I don't know, such a amazing thing that happened. Ken knew Eric, or a friend of Ken's, knew Eric Motter, and then we got to meet Eric, and it blossomed. It really gave me the self-confidence and the self-esteem that I was lacking, and I knew I had to go back to school and get a quote real education, and I really wanted to go to university. I thought it was just a place where intellectuals met and discussed interesting things, just like what I was getting with Eric and Marshall, and all the environment that I was in Toronto was just a hub of activity, intellectual activity around Ontario College of Art. It was the late 70s. Punk rock was just at its height. We were just totally into all that. And, that year of Eric's class was worth all the classes I've had so far. I mean, even at the university level.
Cool.
I found everything pale in comparison to what Eric taught.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and just to give you the tools that he gave, perceptual tools, like the figure ground thing, which is really important because you can identify with that. It's like, the COVID thing, okay. And there's a scene in my book where Marshall is up on the CN Tower, and he's got his TV hanging from his hand, and I did a swipe with that. It's just what it is. It'll come through. But so he's got this TV, and he's up on the CN Tower, and King Kong is up there, swatting airplanes everywhere. So getting back to COVID, and there was something that Marshall said that when the ground, that is the environment which we don't pay attention to, becomes a figure, it's a monster. And that was King Kong. Yeah. And this COVID is like the ground has turned into a monster. And it's everywhere. And we have to deal with this. King Kong on the CN Tower.
I love that image from the book, from Aurora BoreAlice. And you also you brought up Monday night seminars because there's some illustrations of that. Did you go to just one Monday night seminar, or did you go to a few?
Oh no, I went to not too many with Marshall, but when he had his stroke. Yeah. I mean, we were there right in the thick of it, and Eric had to take over the Monday night centers or sessions. So we lived out in the beaches, and they did too. And so I would drive in with him, and he would carry on with the talk. So I don't know. There were quite a few times after that.
I didn't know Dad took over the Monday night seminars for a while.
Oh yeah, for the last year.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. But at that time, I think they were fighting to keep it going. Yeah. And as soon as Marshall was so vulnerable, they tried to shut it down, and it was tragic. It was. Yeah.
It wasn't pretty.
No, it wasn't. But anyways, Bruce Powell was, one of the people that was in the milieu with everybody, and just of course Dee Motter and comic book art that he did, and he also took Eric's class. So we talked about that, and there was a real connection there, and just being with Ken, who was very gregarious, brought me out to and exposed me to all sorts of people, real intellectuals. It's like, oh my God, will they talk to me? Well, yes, they did, and they wanted to listen to me.
Yeah.
In my quiet voice. And there's a couple of pages in my book with Douglas Copeland, when I arranged a dinner with Douglas and Eric and Spina, and we all went there. And originally it wasn't in my book, and I was almost finished my book. And my publicist said, are there any pages that you really wanted to put in that you didn't? And I said, oh, I wish I hadn't asked you that, because now I have to put them in. So I had to sit down and do these pages very quickly, but I had to do them. I really wanted to do them. I didn't, and I did, because it was so much work, and after 260 pages of, drawing and all that, it's like I was exhausted.
Right.
But I did them anyway, and I'm really glad I did, because that was an important moment.
Yeah.
Just the thinkers, and I don't know, just being exposed to everybody, and I feel quite comfortable now with people who are really, engaging and thoughtful. And my own dad was a very thoughtful person, and the conversations that we had, about politics or religion or anything like that, it was always really interesting and in depth. And I needed that stimulation. I didn't get it from school.
Mm-hmm.
I got it, from my dad, but that's why when I went to Toronto, it was like, wow, this is an amazing city. You can be who you are, and you can be anonymous, or you can be out there.
Oh no, we've lost Joan. Connection lost. I guess we'll put a period on that then. Given that we've been talking for 25 minutes anyway. I'm gonna set you aside here, Joan. I'd like to thank Joan Steacy for joining me tonight. Joan's book, Aurora BoreAlice, is available through Conundrum Press, and I highly recommend it. What I really love about Joan's story in McLuhan work is that I guess I feel a lot like her in that I had my own learning challenges, and it's never come easily for me. I've always had to work understanding McLuhan work. But what I take comfort in is the way I see it is if I can understand it, anybody can, and anybody has to work at it, and there's a reward. So I highly recommend Joan's book, Aurora BoreAlice, not Dundurn, I keep saying that, Conundrum Press. I'm going to put, I love you, Joan, we'll talk later. I'll put the panel she showed up on the Instagram page, so you can check them out. And happy birthday, Marshall McLuhan. Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll see you next week. Good night.